Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of In Between the Stitches. And guess what? I'm not alone this week. And not only do I not have Chase Olschwanger,
What's going on?
I got Jordan Swidler in here with me, who is a friend of Chase's and I believe has been on the show before on the episode where I was not here. So welcome back, sir. And it's good to do it with you this time.
Appreciate it.
We're going to start off normal with the Stars. Stars right now, 22-10-5, third in the Central, fourth in the West. I did not put what they did most recently, but they've looked good.
A 5-4 overtime loss versus Colorado.
That's right. It was overtime loss.
Bad loss.
Well, you know, those happen from time to time. I mean, after that Nashville Predators game, it was we were bound to get some karma, not going our way. But I mean, again, we kind of say the same things every week. The Stars they're hanging in there.
Yeah,
they're doing. I mean, they're rising up. We got the Predators again tonight at 7. So here in about an hour and a half, in Dallas. Trying to see. Here's the schedule. So yeah, we lost to Colorado, and then we lost before that, which is really cool. Lost to Montreal.
Yeah.
And
you look at the Stars' record, and it's good.
Haven't started well in 2023.
Yeah.
But before that, to close out 2023, you had a win over Chicago in overtime, and then a win over Chicago again, 8-1. Mm-hmm. So you had a great closing of the year, and then you just falling flat start 2024. But hey, we're not worried about it.
No, you look at the Stars' record, and it's good, right? You're happy, you're pleased with this record. But then you look at some of the losses that the Stars have this year, and it's been bad. Like, there's a lot of overtime losses, a lot of games where we're up going into the third period by more than one goal and losing that game, or by bad, like you being up 3-2 going into the third and losing 6-3.
I think it's going to come down to, can we get a higher seed to try and get more home playoff games? We got a great atmosphere in American Airlines Center. And I think trying to get the home playoff games and trying to just, I mean, we've seen it with the Panthers, 8 seed, boom, went right to the Stanley Cup.
Hockey's one of those sports that you get hot. It's just like baseball.
I think it's the most unpredictable playoff of the 4 major. I mean, basketball kind of similar with the all 7 game. Football, 1 game, and then baseball is kind of progressive with 3 to 5 to 7 to 7. So, I mean, you can see the Cinderella stories in baseball. And there usually is about one every year, but sometimes they stop in the championship series. Sometimes there are no Cinderellas. I mean, it just, but in hockey, it seems to be every year it's kind of like March Madness. Every year, it's not, are there going to be upsets? It's who are the upsets going to be?
Right.
So, again, not too much with the Stars. We'll just keep recapping each week and seeing where we are in the standings. So, move on to the Dallas Mavericks. They're 21-15. So, I believe they were 15-8 last time I looked at the record. Mm-hmm. So they've kind of, stayed in the same kind of the same ratio of wins and losses. They're 6th in the West. So I mean, but right now 6th the standings don't matter as much right now, and because of how basketball does its stuff, it's all conference based, which I like. 2 wins, both against Portland. We play Minnesota tomorrow at 6:30. So that's the game you should win. I mean, if you want to be that, I think if you consider yourself a part of that top group in the West, I think it's going to be.
I'll rephrase that. I mean, I don't think it's a game that we should win because Minnesota is, the number 1 team in the West.
It's a game I want to win.
Oh, of course. It's a game that you would like to see the team win, but right as we were starting to get healthy, another injury bug happens. Kyrie's back, everybody's healthy. Lively goes down. Luka has a little bit of soreness.
Lively's had injury problems this year.
Yeah,
hope that's not a foreshadowing of his future career with the Mavericks.
Yeah, I mean, it's been minor. It's more like, here, it's a rest day, but like not an actual injury. It's kind of just like, okay, we'll list you as left ankle soreness or whatever.
It's kind of like with baseball. He's going on the 15-day injured list. It's usually a pitcher that's pitched a lot. Well, they have a hangnail. They have a blister. Or me and my dad's joke when a pitcher has a really rough stretch. Yeah, he's going down with leg soreness. Yeah, it's manager's foot up butt. That's why he's going out. He's going out for 15 days because he's 15 days. Unfortunately, you can't put sucking on there.
Yeah,
But Lively is not on there because of sucking.
He's
on there.
Lively's been a huge impact, and I remember I was listening one of the podcasts I didn't miss, and I remember you talking about Lively, and you're correct. He's the anchor to our team, and when he's on the floor, it's a lot better, smoother offense, better defense, and it's also asset of a 19-year-old. And
isn't Grant Williams dealing with some injury problems as well?
That, and he's just been terrible.
He's not been that good.
Really?
Yeah, he's been really, really poor.
He started off hot. I mean, it could just be a dry spell.
It's just disappointing because you give him a 4-year, $54 million contract as a guy that you want to bring in to be a 3-and-D guy. The Mavericks desperately needed after last year.
I mean, he looked good the first few weeks, and then it's just cooled. I feel like it's kind of similar to baseball. Guys go through streaks and cold streaks and hot streaks and all that. But
Grant. Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
Greg, I feel like Grant Williams has always been kind of a hot and cold player. He tends to pick, at least historically in the playoffs, the Celtics, he tended to pick series where he would just show up and then somewhere he would kind of just be there. They play him for 10 minutes a game. You know, it's kind of depends. But he's very helpful if he played his potential. He obviously can be a great scorer, but his defense is really needed, which is why it's tough when he's struggling on that end. So I don't know. I think the Mavs look good right now. You know, given that they've had Luka miss a few games, stuff like that. I think the biggest test for them is going to be every game they play without Luka this year. I think at the end of the day, like they need to be able to survive without him in those games in order to keep their seeding where they want it to be. But obviously tests like tomorrow are going to be really important for them because, I mean, if they want to beat the big dogs, they got to be one of the big dogs.
Right?
Yeah. And Luka's missed some games, and as we saw yesterday, Kyrie stepped up. Great game. Mavs played great as a team. Yeah, it's nice to have that luxury, right? We haven't had that. And when they're both on the floor together, it's fun to watch. But tomorrow's a test for sure. Tomorrow's a test, and we'll see who's healthy. There's no injury report yet. Everybody's day to day right now.
Right.
So we'll see what happens.
I feel like we haven't really been fully healthy the entire season.
No, there's always been someone.
Except maybe the first week. Other than that, and even then we didn't. I don't think we had Kyrie at that point. Didn't he start the season unhealthy?
Yeah.
And then
he got injured early.
Yeah, he went down first. So since then, we just haven't really seen this team at full strength. And when they are at full strength, it's a lot of fun to watch.
Yeah.
But it feels like Grant Williams right now is kind of a Tim Hardaway Jr. but can't defend. I mean, sorry, but can defend.
No, he's a lot different than Timmy. Timmy is a guy that can create his own shot. Grant is more of a spot-up guy.
More last year. I mean, in the hot and cold.
Sure,
but at least Grant Williams is a lot more consistent on his defense.
Yeah, Tim Hardaway Jr. is up there for 6th man of the year running. I mean, he's averaging almost 17 a game. I think he's been a great third scorer to have. When it's hard to put up those numbers when you have superstars in front of you.
It's good to see him healthy.
He stepped up in a spot where we were hoping he could step up. I mean, he has a really nice contract.
Mm-hmm.
And so we were hoping that he could be either that third option, maybe a fourth option, but he's always been really streaky.
Mm-hmm.
There are games where he will always chuck up shots. And there are games where he's chucking them up and he's missing them all. He's just brick. And there's some where it's all swishes. Yeah. So it's just I'm glad to see he's getting more consistent with his offense. Going around the league, Draymond Green got reinstated just like a few minutes ago. Some opportune time to start the podcast. I mean, obviously, I think he's one more incident away from
being done. Yeah.
Big problems. I mean, I understand heat of the moment. Look, I get it. You're playing a very competitive sport. If anyone else has played sports before, you understand. It's just, even in an intramural game, you can get kind of heated and the heat of the moment of playing. So I understand that, but kind of what he's done is just
the consistency.
It's so flagrant that it's to me it's inexcusable.
It's also like overboard. Like everything he's doing is not just the frequency of it, but it's also just every single action he's taking is just like indefensible. And yet Kerr was defending him for a while, but Kerr can't even defend him anymore. It's getting so bad.
When you choke someone and put them in a headlock, there's no excuse for that.
No, and if someone. Like if anyone ever watched, Netflix has a really good series called Untold. They do a lot, some really they deep dive into some untold sports stories. And the one over Mouse at the Palace was really interesting because they got both players' perspectives, and some of the guys were like, "The NBA tried to ruin my career, and I was defending my teammates." And so I feel like if you're defending your teammates as a coach, if you get into a fight defending a teammate, like they hit your quarterback late, lineman runs over and pops him. I'll take that 15-yard penalty. Yeah. I don't care. I would. It's the principle of defending a teammate or defending yourself. Draymond doesn't do that. He just it seems that it's just like, I'm going to attack this guy today.
Yeah.
It feels almost like GTA in basketball. I mean, it's just he's just attacking random people because he can.
I think he also has this like constant issue where he tests the refs. He loves to test them, and they allow him to for what it's worth. I think it's a huge issue. Obviously, we can go into officiating the NBA. There's a lot of ongoing issues with that. But the main thing I'd say with Draymond is every opportunity he gets, he argues, he moans, everything he can do to kind of just like get in the ref's face.
He could get attacked every time he talks.
And he pushes them to a point where they don't really know how to properly handle him without just kicking him out of games. And I think, this break, hopefully for his sake, will allow him to maybe tune that back a little bit. That's what I would hope. Yeah. If not, then,
there's a problem.
I mean, people always compare him to Rodman, and Rodman caused a lot of problems with refs because of how he played. But I feel like Rodman cared about his teammates. He cared about winning, and he would be willing to win and maybe try to shut his mouth a little bit more frequently and not try to, kick a cameraman
And I
or
don't
something
doubt
like
that about Draymond, though.
But
He's been proven as a winner.
He's a winner, and I think he cares. But I'm trying to. It feels like there's a quality missing. Like, at least the teammates of Rodman will tip. You rarely hear them speak ill, but it feels like now the Warriors guys are having a harder time defending Draymond's actions.
I mean, the whole Jordan Poole incident, as we find out more information and know kind of what happened with that, Draymond, like, he kind of goes after guys.
Yeah.
He initiates a lot of this stuff.
And I
get
get that if you're testing a rookie, you're testing a young guy, that's part of sports.
Of course.
But it feels like Draymond almost breeds into hazing.
Seriously.
Full-on bullying people. I mean, it's getting out of hand. And I think the NBA, it's why I think Adam Silver is the best commissioner in sports.
Agreed.
He's done good disciplinary actions with Draymond. It's all right. You mess up one more time, you're probably out for a long time, if not forever. I cannot compromise the safety.
He's giving him opportunities.
I cannot, at this point, if I'm the commissioner, I cannot, continue to put other players on rosters at risk for things they didn't do. If you have, I'm trying to think, the old like Steelers teams and the Ravens teams and those Bengals teams that Vontaze Burfict and guys like that, typically they would have flagrant stuff, but I don't know if it was this frequently. And a lot of times it always felt like they were defending a teammate or it was someone they're jawing with. They had some kind of motive. It rarely feels motive with Draymond. It's just, I'm gonna go attack him today.
It's not Antonio Brown on the other end.
Yeah, I feel like it. It feels again a lot more just flagrant.
Yeah,
agreed.
So, and we have Lakers turmoil on here, and Jordan, you're a Lakers fan, so I'll kick this one to you. At this point, it feels like LeBron's gonna be a player coach.
So I mean, I don't know. This is what I'll say. I just want to say, first off, I'm grateful LeBron came because we won a title. Everything afterwards, at this point, is just gravy, right? I mean, that's the reality of this. I mean, you can't really ask for multiple titles. One title's, and I'm a little spoiled in my life, obviously, with being a Lakers fan. But what I will say is, I think there's been some ongoing issues that are a little bit longer than just this year. I've talked about this a few times with my friends. Chase and I were having a discussion the other day, but we had a perfect roster after 2020. We went into 2021, got very injured that year, and still found a way to make the playoffs. We faced a great Suns team that made the finals that year and took them to 6 games. And if AD hadn't gotten hurt, I think we had a good chance of winning that series. And what did we do after that? We fired our best coach in years, Frank Vogel. We kicked off, shipped off all of our players that we had that we, needed as role players for Russ. And, if it weren't for basically a great end of last year, Ham probably would have been gone already. And, I hate to say this, but I think it's just time to make some changes. And, what's going on internally makes a lot of sense. Guys like D'Lo have very big egos, and they want to make sure that they're a big role on the team. And they obviously, can't be with the way the team is currently. And guys like Reeves, who I truly do believe should get a lot more playing time, more opportunities, should not be coming off the bench. He's frustrated with his playing time, and that's coming out too. And it's like, at what point does Pelinka need to make some changes? And we were looking at odds. We saw a tweet that had odds earlier about guys being terminated off, out of the organization. Is Pelinka going to be staying for a lot longer? I don't know. Personally, I'm at a point where I'd rather just kind of watch and see. It's hard to really have a strong opinion on this. I just think the changes need to be made.
Right.
But it kind of sucks. I mean, you hate to see your 2 best players in the last 10 years, so ever since Kobe left, basically, playing the best basketball of their careers almost. It feels like that way. Every game we're seeing massive games out of LeBron and AD, and there's no one else. I mean, this is just like an ongoing thing over and over, and it feels a little bit it's frustrating to watch as a fan, mainly because going into every game that the attitude of the team is one of the core issues, right? That they're going to be feeling the way they do, feeling down, knowing, hey, we might lose this game. So I don't know. Those are my initial thoughts.
No, and it puts a lot of pressure on Pelinka for the future, because if with everybody making all these excuses and disappointed in the team, Pelinka goes out there and does what everyone wants him to do, fires Ham, makes some trades. But then what if it still doesn't work? What if there's still no, success? Well, then that puts Pelinka, in jeopardy for his job. So
you can correct me. You guys can correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not as plugged in as basketball as you guys are. You guys, I'm a Jordan guy.
Mm-hmm.
I do like LeBron. I don't really like him as a person, but I like him as a player. I think he's. Yes. I mean, obviously, him still being one of the top 3 players in the league, I would say.
He's not 3 anymore.
Maybe top 10.
Yeah, he's top 10. He's top 10.
Still being a top 10 player, an elite level player at his age, and this consistently is
unbelievable.
It's pretty remarkable. It is. So, but it feels like we have a. Is there news?
TJ Watson, some bad pain apparently.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. That's not good for the Steelers, especially if they make the playoffs.
Yeah.
It's the one put on defense
We'll
they
get
can
to
rely
that.
on.
We'll get to that.
They might make it, so we'll see.
Jordan rarely went to his GM and dictated personnel moves.
Mm-hmm.
Fair.
Maybe the one was Rodman, because he was like, "Look, we need rebounding. I want this guy," and it worked out really well. But for more or less, he let Krause be the guy upstairs that got all the, and he would be the guy on the floor.
Yes.
It feels like ever since, and I think the first stint with the Cavs did this to LeBron. It caused him to, because I mean, obviously they did not put. I'm not going to try to remember all their names. I can picture all their faces, and I just don't want to try to think of all their names. I've seen countless things about this but I just don't remember all their names. But the Cavs front office guys couldn't put a team around him. It was Mo, and I can't remember his last name.
Mo Williams.
Mo Williams, thank you.
Besides Jonas Ilgauskas.
Yeah, Ilgauskas was. Those were his two best co-stars, and they're good players, but not great ones.
No. They still made a finals. Crazy.
And he still entered the finals, which is remarkable. And then he goes to Miami and has a super team. And then he comes back to the Cavs, and then the second he got back to Cleveland, he started, okay, I want this guy. I want this guy. Now I want this guy. Get this guy out. I want this coach. And he started trying to dictate personnel moves. And it got him a championship. It got him to 4 straight NBA finals. They only won 1, but it still got them to 4.
He made 8 straight.
8 straight? Oh, that's true. I'm saying that with the Cavs,
Yeah, of course,
he made
but
4 straight. Yeah,
saw the success for a prolonged period of time. It's crazy.
4 straight with the Cavs. So LeBron dictating some of the personnel moves got that. And I have to wonder if it gave him a very false sense of confidence in, I can dictate moves and we'll continue to win because, I know basketball. Then he goes to the Lakers, tries to dictate moves, they get a championship.
Of course.
And again thinks, well, it'll just keep happening. And then ever since then, it feels like a lot of the veterans they would bring in would be LeBron guys.
Melo.
If a coaching
Dwight.
hire or firing need to be made, it's because LeBron wanted it, and now they're failing. And it's, to me, what happens when you don't have a well-organized organization in sports. And I know Krause said this, and it was very famous that players don't win championships, organizations do. And I know the players that irked them, but I think he was right. Because you look at the Rangers, our team, they have a great division of labor. Owner writes the checks, needs a GM who knows who to get and can explain to him, here's why I need you to write this check for this certain player. The GM knows he can't run the day-to-day operations of the on-field operations, so he gets a great guy to run that. And Bochy knows I need a good pitching coach. He knows I need good hitting coaches. He knows I need good players. Everything works in the organization. There's no, I'm sure there are egos. You have athletes and you have men, but so I'm sure there are huge egos there. But they know their role. As The Rock would say, they know their role and shut their mouth. Feels like with the Lakers, no one does. No. And at the core of that problem is LeBron. It's like the thing that helps your team is also one of the greatest curses on your team right now.
Yeah, I would have to agree. Great analysis. This has been a thing for a few years. I feel the same way as I did years ago about him, which is incredible player, really is an incredible leader and brings guys up around him. I think the problem he runs into is that he stunts development of players on teams he's on. It's a big problem that has followed him everywhere he's gone. And an issue with the Lakers now is that we're years into his tenure where they could not develop players for the last few years. They don't have guys that have been around for a few years that are not him, AD, and that's basically it. They aren't other guys. Everyone's turning over every year. Mm-hmm. And it's resulted in, him, like you said, kind of grasping at straws almost, it feels like. He's trying to find solutions to something that truthfully may not have solutions. And I'm willing, as a Lakers fan, I'm willing to say, this might be the end of the era with the two of them. And I'm glad I got to see it. But, it's tough to imagine that they can fix an issue like this, especially in a 1-year time span.
Yeah.
Right. So, the Lakers have some problems, but, I think the biggest thing is, and I know LeBron would have a hard time doing this, but just kind of stepping aside. And if there's a guy that you really want that he's a winner. Like with Scherzer, who was one of the first guys Scherzer contacted before he decided to waive his no-trade clause? It was DeGrom. Hey, how is it there in Texas? Are they going to win? DeGrom's been on a World Series team. They didn't win, but he's been on a team that went. So, hey, what's it like there? Oh man, you need to get here. And he trusted that. I don't say it's the same thing, but it's kind of that that stamp of approval if you need to get here. And I think occasionally recruiting is great. It helps. It can help, maybe teams are on the fence about a player, or maybe a team doesn't really think about a player acquiring them, and another player's like, hey, you should probably think about going and get this guy because he's really, really good. LeBron though does it. It feels like for every move.
It's true.
Almost. I mean,
That's true.
you know, we
That's the
joke,
thing that needs to change. Chris Young,
yeah,
for example, we didn't have one without him, right? He put this
No.
team together.
Yeah.
He made the big moves.
him and Daniels.
But
yeah.
the difference, yeah, of course. But the
Sorry, I always give him
difference,
his flowers.
of course, yes, give Daniels a ring.
I do.
But the thing is, the difference is that he let Bochy coach this team.
Yeah, he didn't.
He didn't step in at all. He said, "Boch, you go out there and you do it." That's what brings success.
Yeah,
You think Jerry would ever do that with Mike McCarthy? Hey, Mike, you go coach. No, Jerry's got to be the last word with everything. That's the problem.
I think Jerry runs, and we can talk a while about Jerry. Because at the same time, I love Jerry because he's passionate about his
Yes,
team.
of
And
course.
I honestly know people may disagree. I'd rather have a Jerry Jones than a David Tepper
Jerry
or
Reinsdorf?
or a Jerry Reinsdorf
We're talking about
Or-
awful owners.
Yeah.
Jesus
or
Christ.
a Dan Snyder. I'd rather have someone that cares so much that it causes problems than a guy that doesn't care at all and it causes problems. Because at least when you care, you're more likely to stumble into a championship by caring than not.
Of course.
And we can talk about Jerry. And you know, he's starting to delegate more control to Steven, and he's for the last 10 years has been delegating more control about the draft to Will McClay, but he still signs off. And he's still at the forefront. I mean, if you watch the inside the draft thing when we drafted Mozzie, who was the number one guy talking? Jerry.
Yeah.
And what he does is like he's like the host. He kicks it to his scouts, and he does, from all people that I've heard from, he, not personally obviously, but the thing I've seen that people have talked, he does listen to scouts. And it's not Jerry, oh, I really want this guy and screw what you have to say and I don't care. No, he does listen. But I think that unfortunately, and again, I read a book, I just got finished with Jimmy Johnson's book, so I learned a lot about why they curated, and a lot of it is what I've been saying, and I've been proved right by this book, that Jerry wants credit. Jerry wants to be able to say that I built a team. The famous line in the book, the famous line is 500 coaches could have coached this team. Sorry to kick the football for a second. But
No problem.
the famous line in the book that I read that really stuck out to me was Jerry had brought Jimmy aside and said, if I make $10 million with a great business deal, crickets, nothing. No one says anything. If you trade for a backup left guard, and he made like he said he cupped his hands together and made like a crowd noise. He said, and everyone goes wild. He goes, and I want a piece of that. And I went and I slammed my book and went, yes, I've been right. He wants the credit for a Super Bowl without having to delegate any of the credit. Because even the third one, no one gives it to Barry Switzer and no one gives it to Jerry Jones. We all give it to Jimmy Johnson because it was his team. And honestly, 500 coaches could have coached that team, but who put that team together?
Which
Jimmy.
the point I was making was just that going back to this,
Yeah.
if the GM lets the coach that they hire and they pay do their job, you see success, and it's proven. And Chris Young still got the credit without even having to do anything.
And I think that definitely is where Darvin Ham's at also, where he just kind of is a puppet at this point. I don't think he's really doing much. And, I still think that Vogel was the answer. We got rid of him after winning a title with him. But, I don't know what's going to happen. There's a good chance this is the end of our success for at least a few years. It is what it is if it is. But that's how it goes, right? It's the NBA.
So it is my time to remind everybody that the Texas Rangers won the World Series.
Absolutely.
I think,
That was last year.
Yeah, it was last year. I know, right? and there was an idiot Astros fan, and I don't remember his name, and I don't want to interrupt, but he was an idiot Astros fan who was like, I can't wait for the new year because then the Rangers are no longer the champions because it's a new year. I'm like, we're still the reigning defending. Even when opening day starts, the language changes. Right now, we're the champs. When spring training starts, we're the defending champs. And we're the defending champs until someone else wins it. The trophy is with us until someone takes it. Or we just say, no, we're going to keep it again for
I was going to say, maybe you defend it.
Which would be awesome. And we're in prime position to do that.
Yeah.
The last thing I want to do, to go to the Rangers here for a second, is re-sign Monty. That's it. I think Montgomery and then Hurtado Barbecue today offered him free barbecue for life if he resigns. Which I'd get on that deal if I was.
And he came out and said, obviously the talks with the Yankees, where he started, right?
I think
he said that in quote he'd rather stay here than go there.
And they wronged. I think I'd be pissed at the Yankees because the Yankees traded him, and I can't remember if they actually said it or if they were. It was like the thinking was he's not a starter in the postseason.
Yeah, that's what it was.
He's not a top 4 guy.
Yes,
he's a 5th starter guy, and he was our second best pitcher.
I will say,
I
I don't know if anyone saw this coming the way he played. I mean, truthfully, like he was always good.
He was a good starter.
And
we were talking about it yesterday. It's like before Monty came here, right? We were like, he didn't really have a bad game with us. He was at a 3.8 ERA, which is fine, which is good. And he comes to us and he's like 3.3, 3.4 to end the year.
He was really good with Mike Maddox as his pitching coach at the back end of last year with St. Louis. And so when everyone was talking about who should we target at the deadline, Montgomery was one of the first guys I thought about because I'm like, I don't think he'd be very expensive. And I think getting him back with Maddox, there's a track record of him being very successful with Mike Maddox. I like that history. I want to bring him in. I think the bang for your buck here. I think what you're getting for what you'd give up. You gave up 2 middle of your top 30. I think it was Roby and I've heard it pronounced Thomas Saggese. It's Saggese. So I think it's Saggese is how it's a weird pronunciation. But they were 2 solid prospects. But Roby's already had injury problems as a pitcher, and Saggese, he's gonna hit. But where's he gonna play? He's an infielder. We have Simeon for 5 more years. Seager for 8.
Yeah.
Where the hell is he going to
True.
play? Young,
No, seriously.
Young is young. And Lowe is not that old, and he's winning Gold Gloves and Silver Slugger. So he doesn't fit. So it's like with Acuna. He doesn't fit on our team, people. And, well, he can play center field.
You know what? I can make an exception for Acuna. We can fit him somewhere.
People say, well, no, Luis Angel.
Luis Angel.
Oh, Luis Angel.
Right.
Sorry. Luis Angel, Acuna's brother, we traded for Scherzer. Like, well, he can play center field. We have Tavares. Well, I don't like Tavares. Okay, well, then Carter can play center field. We have White Langford.
Yeah.
What's your new argument? There's nothing. I mean, you don't have one.
Yeah.
So it was luxuries that when you have top prospects, you either trade them or you find a spot for them. We decided to trade them, and we won a World Series.
Yeah.
And Monty was one of those guys that I wanted to trade for and he was one of those. He was a metric darling. He was an analytics guy. There's a lot of analytics that pointed to him being very successful because of where he releases the ball. He's tall, big, and he just has kind of that slow looping windup, and it's a very high angle. It's really tough to pick up.
That's why that curveball's so deadly.
And it's the same delivery. It doesn't change for the curveball, the sinker, changeup. It's the same windup delivery every time. So you have to read it off his hand, and it's very difficult from his angle because it's coming down at you. It's just he is definitely more old school, and I hate saying old school because it shouldn't be an old school philosophy of you don't have to throw 99 to get guys out. You locate. You throw strikes, you generate soft contact, and you win games. And you pitch with a pitcher. You pitch with a kind of that a very bulldog mentality. And Maddox instills that. And they call him Mad Dog. He instills that in his pitchers. And Montgomery, I think, exudes that quality of I don't have to throw 98 to get guys out. I can throw 93 and be very successful. But other news in the MLB, the Mariners made a couple trades. They traded Jose Caballero to the Rays for, I can't remember, Luke Raley.
Yep.
So, I mean, the Rays do need a shortstop. They, after some incidents have occurred, so they do need a shortstop. And this guy, I mean, he's good defense. Maybe he can hit. You never know. Was top prospect, I believe. And they traded Robbie Ray to the Giants for Anthony DeSclafani. So they trade pitchers, and then they got Mitch Haniger back. Yeah. So I mean, hey, they kind of needed someone to replace Teoscar, and they kind of got him. So at least they got rid of Teoscar and Eugenio because they were the top 2 leaders in strikeouts.
Yeah,
sure. It was bad, but they can hit, and they can mash, but they're going to strike out a lot. Chris Sale was traded. Obviously, that was a big one.
I think you're missing one more Mariners signing.
Oh, I am missing. Oh yeah, Mitch Garver. I have it right here. 2 years, $24 million. So hey, first time he comes back.
Listen, I'm so happy he went to a division team, not the Astros.
Standing ovation.
Because now, I mean, yes, I would cheer for him with Houston.
Yeah, I would.
But
unless he came out and said Texas sucks, I like Houston better, then I would cheer for him.
But now we'll see him 8 times a year in Dallas or in Arlington.
Hopefully, if he plays.
As long as he plays, yeah.
And it'll be really cool, I think, for him to get that ovation because
he will.
When you win a World Series, especially for the first, when you win a World Series in any city,
he was the first RBI.
You're a legend. I mean, 2005 wasn't the first World Series for the White Sox. I mean, it was the first one in a while.
First over 100 years.
Over 100 years, but still, it was.
Yeah, of course.
Everyone there is beloved.
They're legends, of course.
They're legends, and even in Boston's a better example because they've won a lot in the last 20 years. Even those guys are still legends. But when it's your first one or your first one in a really long time, they're legends. And they can come back and they will always be legends to Rangers fans. Even guys like Matt Bush didn't play. Still a legend.
Matt Bush.
Well, everyone will always remember him on that. At least I will always remember him on that team.
Of course.
So, I mean, it's just a great story. Plus, he was the number 1 pick the year I was born. So it's kind of cool.
With Mitch Garver, I also say his role is going to be interesting.
Yeah, because they have,
Cal Raleigh.
Cal
Raleigh, thank you.
And Cal plays.
every day.
120, 130 games. I mean,
So
realistically.
it'll probably be one's the DH and one's the catcher, and then they flip.
Kind of like the Heim situation.
Because
Pretty similar, right?
Raleigh can mash.
During the season, yeah.
and
Garver
Garver-
did
No,
not-
I'm saying during the regular season. I'm
Yeah.
talking about playoffs, but
and Garver can mash,
Mhm.
but they're both not the greatest defensively. They're both offensive first catchers,
Mhm.
for sure.
whereas Heim is very balanced on both ends. He's definitely, you could say, his glove first. But
I would say he is, but he's a great hitter too.
he's
So
he's a really good hitter too. I still think he's arguably better than Adley, but that's just
we had to talk about this the other day.
there's some
It's very
bias.
close.
There's
It's
some
very
bias there,
close.
but I honestly think the switch hitting gives him a bit of an
They
edge.
both
So,
switch hitting.
at least switch hitting,
yeah,
too.
he does switch hit. Yeah.
So does Cal Raleigh. So does Cal Raleigh.
I forget. Hey, I like switch hitters. They're cool.
Yeah.
They're awesome. It's such a
Um,
cool phenomenon.
So I had a debate one time. We were in high school, and someone was like, "Man, Chipper, who's the greatest switch hitter of all time?" These baseball players were like, "Man, it's Chipper Jones." And I went, "No, it's not." And they're like, "Who?" I went, "Mickey Mantle." And they went, "Oh yeah, we forgot he was a switch hitter." And I went, Eddie Murray was also a switch hitter too. So there's been some, switch
some great
hitters.
ones,
I,
of course.
I like switch hitters
Yeah, of course.
because you can't match. I hate it when guys try to righty lefty matchups. But you can't do that with switch hitters. So you better just
Can't bring in the other
get
guy.
who you want, not the arm they throw
Yeah.
with. But
Yep.
Chris Sale was traded, and they got Von Grissom
Yeah.
back for him.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I did not expect that. I thought maybe they'll get a lower level prospect. I mean, Chris Sale is still a decent pitcher. It's not what he was in his prime.
Braves could use some innings though. He's
But
kind of an innings eater. He kind of gives you some.
He's kind of a swing man. He can start some games. He's probably gonna be what Odorizzi was gonna be, or maybe what Heaney was. He starts, maybe goes to the bullpen. You just kind of you pitch him when you need him. He's still nasty.
I just don't know if they do that. I mean, it looks like the Braves have so much faith in him.
Yeah.
They already gave him that extension.
I mean, look, they have faith in him, and that's great. And he's also got big game experience, been around a long time. But you gave up, and I understand that Vaughn doesn't really fit in the Braves scheme anymore.
Not at all.
But still, it's a pretty nice. I mean, for the Craig Breslow done a great job, I think, so far in wheeling and dealing and getting some good pieces for Verdugo, and they got the reliever from Seattle for Luis Urias, who I think sucks and is a AAA player, and they got a quality reliever that throws like 100 miles an hour.
Oh, it was what's his name?
Yeah,
He killed us.
Yeah, he killed us, and I know he's kind of a big guy. He's got a mustache.
Yeah,
I remember it.
Forget his name. But
He throws. I mean, he looked nasty. I'm like,
Yeah.
I like what Breslow's doing, and I think the Red Sox kind of did what the Rangers did in hiring a former player that won a championship, obviously with the Red Sox. But we hired Chris Young, former player with championship experience, and I think people are starting to realize that player experience and the championship experience of Chris Young's been on a team where he's seen winners. He's seen a team where that went and then lost and then went again and won and kicked the crap out of the Mets. I mean, they what was it, 5? It was 5 games. I mean, it wasn't much of. I mean, there were some close games. It was come from behind and wins, but you win it in 5. It's tough to say. It wasn't much. It was don't say maybe it was pure domination, but they handled they handled the Mets pretty well.
Yeah.
Like we handled the Diamondbacks pretty well, but they made it close in some of the games.
I mean, they're a good team. They're
yeah,
hot,
they're a
but
good
you
team.
guys, better team.
We definitely handled it, but I think the teams shouldn't realize that championship experience, the player experience, has a lot of very valuable aspects to it. So I think that Breslow, I think Chris Young has started it. You always see this with teams. A team wins, and then everyone wants to copy what they did. The Astros and the Cubs win in 16 and 17 by complete tank and then farm system. And then you see teams trying to do that, kind of what the Orioles did and what kind of the Rangers have, and what the Reds are kind of doing over in
the Reds
Cincinnati.
did it too. Yep.
So, and now I think everyone's starting to see it's just how can you gain an edge? What are the winners doing, and how can we copy what they're doing? And I think one of the things obviously the winners doing is hiring a guy that is very intelligent, and also I think an Ivy League guy, because Breslow I think went to Yale, and obviously
You want smart people
Yeah.
that are making those decisions. You don't want just like some,
Chris Young is a Princeton guy. So I mean, you want baseball people, but you also want some intelligence. I'm not saying you have to be Ivy League school to be a GM. There've been some great ones that were not Ivy League guys, but I think it could be the start of a potential trend for teams that are looking for GMs who are maybe some former players that were. You don't have to be. I mean, Chris Young was a really good pitcher. You don't have to be a great player, but did you play maybe for a long time? I mean, obviously Chris Young played long enough to have played with Bruce Bochy for a year, and that gave him the idea to bring Bochy in. So
Red Sox. They also signed Giolito.
yeah, Giolito, which
Red
I
Sox.
think is. Worst case scenario, he sucks like he has been the last year, and then 1 year, maybe 2, he's been kind of but
yeah.
So the thing about Giolito is that he's just inconsistent. But when he has a good outing, it's fantastic. And
Yeah.
I also will
And
say
we saw it the second time we faced them in Cleveland.
he's also not the thing about Giolito. You got to realize is that he's not a strikeout pitcher all the time. There's sometimes he is, but some outings he is very ground ball oriented.
Right.
And you need a good defense.
Yeah.
You need to have guys who can actually
Like
I don't know,
Texas. I think
defend him.
Texas would be perfect
Sure.
for him. And Boston has, and I'm gonna blank on the guys that are there.
Devers.
Devers,
They got some guys
obviously.
there.
They're not bad, but I think that Giolito, it's a change of scenery. It's what the Rangers did. They made a career of doing with Mike Minor, then Lance Lynn, then Kyle Gibson. Then you can argue with Heaney and Gray almost of just like signing veteran guys and just that maybe didn't realize their full potential where they were and can realize it. I mean, Giolito was good, but
He has so much more potential. I've always felt like he was.
do you think it could have been a product of the toxic environment this
Of course.
at least
Okay,
this year?
so I can point to one person for that. Besides, I'm Reinsdorf, but I can point to one person as an example of that. Dylan Cease, right? Last year, he was second in Cy Young voting behind Verlander. He would have won it in most years. Verlander had a sub-2 ERA. It was insane.
Yeah.
I mean, no one was beating him that year. The next year, Cease has an awful, awful year. I mean, his standards, right? He had 3.6 ERA this year, 3.7
Something like
ERA.
that, yeah.
He had some, serious issues going on. It's not coincidence that White Sox pitchers are having issues. I think Ethan Katz is having some issues as pitching coach. I'm a little worried about him. I liked him for a while, and I think it gets deeper than that. But point is, the culture's terrible, and the culture is just toxic. And when you guys like Tim Henderson acting out and whatever, all these guys that were leaders of the clubhouse, I think it's led itself to guys who should be better not performing to their level. And Giolito is in my opinion, textbook example. He was supposed to be our number 2 pitcher, maybe number 3 if you count Kopech. Kopech has had some issues too.
Yeah,
These guys have so much potential. I would love to see Kopech somewhere else. Honestly, I know I want to see these guys develop for my team, but they have so much potential. Giolito, he's, those are 3 guys that I can name off the top of my head that many teams would love to have on their rosters as potential,
Kopech
guys in the rotation.
is nasty. The problem he has that injury bug. He just cannot seem to shake the problems. His arm seems to fail him, which is very unfortunate. And one of my favorite players on your team is I don't think he played this year because of Tommy John, but Garrett Crochet.
He's nasty.
You get a lefty that
His
throws that
slider.
hard. I mean, it's just he feels like it's a Chris Sale, but for a reliever. Unless you guys
Disgusting.
are planning on starting him, which I think would be bad. But people always, I think a lot of other sports fans, because coordinators and coaches matter a lot in football. I think coaches matter in football more than any other sport. Not saying that they don't matter in other sports, but I think people always rank baseball as like, well, they don't really matter. I'm like, well, I think in the modern age we're starting to see like, man, I think we have the best pitching coach in baseball.
Mm-hmm.
And you look at our pitching staff. I mean, wherever Mike Maddox goes, the pitching staff gets better.
Mm-hmm.
And yes, you can say, well, they brought in new pitchers, but look at some of the guys he had in 2010-11 with us: C.J. Wilson, Colby Lewis, Derek Holland, Alexi Ogando, Matt Harrison. All were good, but they all, believe they all had their best years with Mike Maddox as the pitching coach.
It matters so much. It
So
really does.
I think people forget that the pitching and hitting coaches, I think they matter more in the development of players than the manager does, but the manager matters more in the culture. The Rangers I think the Rangers do it best. Bochy establishes the culture, handles the in-game stuff, and the hitting coaches and pitching coaches, Donnie Ecker and Tim Hires on the hitting side and Mike Maddox on the pitching side, they handle the the preparation. They have meetings. I know Maddox sits in with the catchers for their meeting on how we're going to attack these hitters, and hitters how we're going to attack this guy, and then if they bring in this guy and this guy, and then but once the game starts, the pitching coaches can the other coaches can give input, but it's Bochy's team, and I think they do matter. And unfortunately, we've seen with White Sox, it just hasn't worked out as well as you.
No,
like.
I mean it is what it is. It's unfortunate, but listen, I mean, I don't want to rebuild again, but we're at that point. So if we're gonna sell our guys, let's get them to teams that can use them.
The Reds signed Frankie Montas. I mean, change of scenery. They need pitching. They just need somebody that can be there, and they have such a good hitting core.
Yeah,
such a good hitting core.
Young core,
and such a good hitting core, and they just don't have. Oh wow, yeah, Watt's been ruled out in the game. Such a good hitting core, and then they just don't have any pitching right now. I mean, they have Hunter Green and Lodolo and those guys. They're really good, but they need some more stability, I think, when it comes to their pitching staff, and I think that Montas has the ability to provide that.
Yes, I agree.
I want to get to one more baseball thing before we kick it to football, and I want to ask you guys. I know we've talked about this, but I think we're gonna have this debate each time just to rehash it. We haven't with you though. The Hall of Fame ballot. So I'm a big Hall guy. I always have been. I'll keep saying it. I believe that on a lot of 50-50 cases, I'm more willing to let guys in and keep them out because not only do I view the Hall of Fame as a great accomplishment and the elite of the elite, the top 1%, but I also look at it as it's a place to celebrate history. And so the more players you can put in there, I think it can be for the better. Obviously, there can be guys that are not Hall of Fame worthy. There's not really anybody I would look at in the Hall of Fame currently and say there is no way you can argue they are a Hall of Famer, but there are guys that I can argue that should be. So there's guys on the ballot. I have been going on a press tirade on the two idiots that did not vote for Adrian Beltre, and that was Bill Bilo, Ballouw. Everyone that listens to this, go tweet at him, DM him if you can. Ruin this guy's life. He writes for some rink-a-dink newspaper in Boston, and he claims he only votes for the elite of the elite.
Oh, okay? Yeah. Beltre wasn't, right?
Only the elite of the elite. You know where his two votes were?
Tell us.
You ready? He's a Boston guy, so remember this.
Tell us.
He voted for Manny Ramirez and Alex Rodriguez. Now, if you're willing to overlook PEDs, A-Rod is the best guy on the ballot.
Sure, agreed.
But, I mean, there's no
100%.
There's no doubt. Manny Ramirez, really? If you want to vote for a guy for bias, I have no problem with that, honestly.
Also.
But his was more at the end of his career than it was.
No, that's fair, but it still
prime.
counts. We're talking about legacy, right?
Yeah, it still counts. I think I'm a PED guy. Let them in.
I am too.
Keep them out.
Yeah, of course.
But Manny Ramirez, he couldn't field. Put me in left field. I could do better than Manny Ramirez could. He was awful. You're going to vote for the elite of the elite. He's not the elite of the elite. Elite hitter. Arguably the best right-hand hitter in baseball for a good stretch there. Or one of the best. But no, he's not the elite of the elite. And if you want to vote for someone biased, there was a Philadelphia writer who voted for Beltre and a couple other guys and voted for Rollins and Utley. I got no problem with that because you're a Philadelphia guy. You knew these guys. Evan Grant voted for Michael Young.
I think Utley deserves a vote too. I don't think that's crazy.
Utley, I think, is worthy of potential Hall of Fame. Rollins does not. Look at the numbers.
Agreed.
His career OPS plus is 95, which is less than league average. And I think the one that made me laugh was on MLB Network. They had Ruben Amaro, who was the former Phillies GM, talking about how, hey, Rollins has some very comparable numbers to Barry Larkin. And I went, interesting. Really? Larkin, that's interesting. I didn't know that because Larkin's a Hall of Fame. And I know he's one of the, some people say could be a bit of a weaker case.
Sure.
And then they looked at the numbers and I went, oh, well, he is kind of close. But I went, but they didn't show, and here's the numbers they didn't show. They didn't show batting average, OBP, slugging, or OPS.
What?
You know why? Because Larkin clean sweeps. It's awful. It's bad. I mean, Rollins isn't. I mean, to me, if Rollins is Hall of Fame, Ian Kinsler's a Hall of Famer. I mean, let's just let a lot of guys in there. Rollins is one of those guys that to me is going to be on the ballot for a few years and then eventually fall off.
I agree.
And he may stay on for 10 years. That's possible, and he just doesn't get in. He's not a Hall of Famer. But if you want to vote for him because it's a bias thing, I've got no problem with, I'm a local writer of this team. I love this player so much. They're my favorites. I want to vote for him. No problem. But clear, and it's funny, so the guy, he was talking about his ballot and who he had voted for in the past. And this may be a hot take, and I don't care because I have numbers to back it up. One of the guys he voted for guys like David Ortiz. Okay, the greatest DH of all time. I mean, we could argue Edgar, but it's Big Papi. I don't think anyone would really try to debate you on that. Another one he voted for was Rivera. He was one of the guys that was considering not voting for Rivera. If you remember that Boston writer, this is the guy. And he eventually did because no one in their right mind would not vote for Mariano Rivera. But one of the guys he voted for was Derek Jeter. And I went, Jeter was a really good player. Is one of the best offensive shortstops in baseball. But he's not a better player overall than Beltre. And I'll die on that hill. They both have 3,000 hits. Now, Beltre has more. Beltre, so they've said they both are very comparable in the hits and the batting average department, I believe. Jeter may be higher because Beltre had a bit of a decline because of his legs. His hamstrings failed him.
Well, going down on a knee every time you hit a home run doesn't help.
Beltre sweeps him in power numbers. People don't realize this, and I think it's because Jeter has probably in the last 30 years, probably 3 or 4 of the greatest defensive plays of the last 30 years.
He's not a good defender.
Right? His jump throws and him diving into the stands at Yankee Stadium in 2004, and the one everyone likes to use, the flip play to snag Jeremy Giambi. Let me list you some numbers. Derek Jeter is statistically speaking, and I feel like a huge nerd when I say that, by the way, statistically speaking, one of the worst, if not the worst fielder in baseball history.
Mm-hmm.
And if you want some numbers, I got them. So they started doing defensive runs saved in 2003. Okay, so he missed 95 to 02. So he missed that. He's still, with only the years he missed, he's still at negative 165. That means in his career, Derek Jeter cost his team 165 runs at shortstop. Okay? You want to go, well, what about the other years they missed? Maybe he was so much more positive. Okay, well, let's entertain that idea. The other rating that they use for guys that were not defensive runs saved is, and this is off Baseball Reference, is RTOT, which is total zone rating. So it's the same scale as defensive runs saved. It's going to be different, but it's kind of what you use for the older guys to try to compare fielders because, well, fielding percentage is all you have after that pretty much. His is negative 186. So you don't have that number. You have no numbers. I believe the only positive year defensive run saved he had, it was 109 at shortstop, was 3. After that, it's negative 6 is his next highest in 2013. And then negative 9 in 2010, and every other year is double digits in the negative. He's statistically one of the worst fielders of all time. Cool, he had a couple highlight plays. He was awful defensively, just putrid. The numbers, there is no debating the numbers. And you compare, and his WAR was 71.3, which is a really good WAR. Beltre's is 93.8, somewhere in there. Beltre, I'll look at Beltre's because I should have. I wish I could memorize this. It's 93.5. 477 bombs, 286 career batting average, 3,100 hits. The big one is the fielding, right? Well, what's his defensive run saved? Remember, his career started in 98 with the Dodgers, and so he doesn't have 98 to 02. Starting in 03, he had 25, by the way, at third base, just for reference. It's 201.
Wow.
He was worth 201 runs at third base for his team. I mean, that's just and his total zone is 168. So
like Josh Young.
It's astounding how much better defensively. And then you're going to vote for the elite of the elite. You're going to include Jeter. Cool. He won rings. Rings only matter for really one position in sports, and you know what that is? It's called quarterback.
Quarterback.
That's it. That's the only position that rings kind of do matter. In baseball,
well, NBA players in general.
In baseball, no, they. I mean, NBA players they can. You can argue rings because of the Jordan and LeBron stuff, but hockey, not really. Baseball, you can't because of your best players bat one every 9 times.
Trout's made the playoffs one time in his career.
I mean, Ernie Banks is one of the greatest players of all time. Never went to a World Series. Barry Bonds never won a World Series.
Barry Bonds barely made the playoffs. There were some years where they do.
I mean, he went in 02 against the Angels, and if Dusty Baker hadn't Dusty Baker in Game 6 and pulled Russ Ortiz, maybe they would have won. But he Dusty Baker the entire game, and they lost. Anyway, I wanted to see if you guys would say, Hall of Famer or not Hall of Famer.
Sure.
And again, I actually think there's 11 guys I'd vote for on this ballot. So I not only get 10.
There are a lot of solid.
Bobby Abreu is one of those guys. I'm not going to list everybody because we've done this, but just the notable ones. Bobby Abreu has better numbers you may think, but no, he's not there.
Agreed.
Beltre is a yes. Beltran is a yes. The scandal, I look at if you did cheat, did it truly affect your entire career? He did not cheat during his entire career. I think he deserves to be left off for a couple of years just to kind of serve a sentence almost, and then you let him in. He's a Hall of Famer.
I agree.
Chase, I assume you know what you do.
Carlos Beltran, 100%.
Mark Burley, Bartolo Colon, they'd be fun.
Dude,
especially
Burley's my
Colon.
favorite pitcher of all time. I don't think I'll get him, but I love him, and I wish he do. I would vote for him in a heartbeat. He's my guy, but no.
Colon and Jamie Moyer are the two guys that I do say they're compilers. I don't like that term. I think that it penalizes guys that were able to play a long time. Like Nolan Ryan was not a compiler. No. He was still dominant late in his career.
No, certain guys are, though.
But Moyer and Colon are compilers because of how long they played. They weren't as effective towards the end of their careers.
I'm happy Burley's on the ballot.
Yeah.
That makes me happy.
And he was a good pitcher, but he just doesn't have it.
He to me for
White
years
Sox Hall of Famer.
He's been what'd you say?
White Sox Hall of Famer.
He's been a Hall of Very good guy to me since I've thought about it, for years. He's right there, but no, he probably won't get in. It sucks.
Adrian Gonzalez is the kind of same thing. He's a great player, but just I don't think he's a Hall of Famer.
He was so good, but no, he's all very good.
And MLB Network tried to make the case, and I'm like, look, you can try. He's close. He's just not there. Todd Helton is Hall of Famer. The argument this
great hitter.
This is why I want to get on MLB Network so bad. 'Cause I believe I could debate those guys and win. You wanted to say Coors Field, okay? Should we penalize left-handed hitters, the Yankees that play for the Yankees?
Yeah, exactly. I'm with you.
Should we penalize guys that played in bigger ballparks, like the Giants? Should we penalize Giants pitchers because their ballpark's huge. Oracle, not Oracle Park. Sorry, it's not T-Mobile Seattle. Is it still Oracle? Because
I think it is Oracle.
Because it used to be AT&T.
It is Oracle.
It's Oracle.
Oracle Park with San Francisco, beautiful ballpark. Yeah. But should we penalize pitchers that play there because, well, it's definitely a lot more pitcher friendly.
Massive.
Should we penalize pitchers that play? Should we penalize guys? I mean, what should we give?
In Boston, I guess.
Yeah, in Boston, should we give guys bonuses if they weren't that? Should we give Manny a pass because he had to play with the Green Monster? Or if you cannot use Coors Field to keep Rockies players out.
I agree.
And then not use ballparks for other guys. I mean, in Texas, our hitters had an advantage in the Texas air, and the fact that it was always hitter friendly. So are you gonna? I mean, that's what frustrates me is that if you want to start using ballparks, you cannot use Coors Field to knock Rockies guys.
Well, it's even more complicated with Rockies pitchers too.
Yeah,
because what do you do about
pitchers?
that? Their ERAs are inherently inflated. So do you not let a guy in who's let's say a guy's actually a stud, like an absolute stud.
Let's say Ubaldo Jimenez worked out.
Sure, and his ERA is sub 3. But there, it's like this amazing ERA, like genuinely, whatever it is, whatever that number is. Do you keep him out because he is comparatively a higher ERA than these other guys who, it's tough.
And that's what I'm going to use for Andy Pettitte actually coming later. But Helton's a Hall of Famer.
That's Hall of Famer.
He is to me. Matt Holliday, very good.
I think he's a Hall of Famer, but it's close.
I think him and Torrey Hunter are kind of in the same thing. They're both fan favorites.
They might get in,
good
but
players,
they might not be it.
I would not personally give them a vote.
Fine.
Andrew Jones. His peak was so good. His peak as a player is arguably the greatest defensive center fielder of all time.
I think he's Hall of Famer.
Although Willie Mays may have something to say about that to people that say that. But he was a fantastic player. But his drop-off was so bad that it does hinder his case.
Of course.
I'm willing to put him in. Mauer is a yes for me.
Absolutely.
Joe Mauer.
One of the best
Joe
catchers
Mauer's
ever.
yes.
Because he maintained being a good fielder at first base and catcher, and he was a great player. Brandon Phillips, great guy. No.
God, no.
Manny Ramirez, I vote for Manny.
I would vote too.
Because
not over Beltran.
And the argument,
I'd vote for him too.
My dad tried to be like, well, I don't know, Brady. He was such a bad fielder. I went, yes. But you know who else is in the Hall of Fame? And I know he's not, but Ozzie Smith and guys, him like Brooks Robinson. Now, Brooks Robinson wasn't an awful hitter for his era, but comparatively, his batting average is like 269 for a career. So by modern standards, something for the era, it's solid. And you have to weigh guys in their eras. I understand that. I am weighing guys in the era, but Ozzie Smith is a more modern day player. I think his career OPS plus like 87, but he's in the Hall of Fame for his glove. So if we're going to vote in guys for being such a great defensive player and a bad offensive player, but they're such a great one on the defense side of things that they're a Hall of Famer, shouldn't the opposite be true for offensive guys?
I mean, if guys are hitting bombs and they're just terrible fielders.
It's the same argument I used for Sheffield. Him and Sheffield were both they were awful fielders. They will make you barf. But they were such good hitters that I think that the opposite of being a great fielder, being a great hitter, and being an awful fielder, I think that you can vote those guys in. So I think Sheffield's in too.
I mean,
with Manny.
Kyle Schwarber, obviously, I don't think he's gonna end up being a Hall of Famer, but
it's the Schwarber thing, yeah.
But it's interesting, right? Because he's an awful fielder, but the guy wins you games, consistently.
Him and they did a thing. It was one of Ichiro's really good years. They have the same OPS plus, but they're just completely different numbers.
50 home runs to 5.
Yeah. Andy Pettitte is a guy that I don't understand why he doesn't get more love. Because his numbers are very comparable to Mike Mussina, who got in. And people want to point to Pettitte's ERA is, I think it's 3.74. And I want to go, okay, because it was the same argument he used against Jack Morris, with the winningest pitcher of the 80s, and it took a veterans committee to vote him in. And I go, okay, yes, Pettitte's ERA was higher. Look at the era he played in. He played in the steroid era.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's...
You're penalized, literally, with the era. Yeah.
I mean, and I don't think he was never accused of anything, so we know that he was at a competitive disadvantage to the guys that were using. And I think that steroids are a kind of witch hunt, and you can name 100 guys that did take that were never reported, and 100 guys that were reported that never took.
Of course. There might be guys that take it now. We don't even know.
And it's like guys with Fred McGriff. He never took. He was this big around. He was a stick the entire time, and he just mashed. But Pettitte's a Hall of Famer, and I honestly think Pettitte is the first year he's available on a Veterans Committee, he's going to get in, sweepingly.
I think he's in.
Because I think he's Hall of Famer.
I grew up, I saw the end of his career.
It frustrates me that more people don't vote him in, I think, because it's just, give me an argument as to why. Was ERA? Cool. He played in a certain era where guys' ERA were comparatively higher than others.
Mm-hmm.
A-Rod, yes.
I think he should get in.
I know PEDs,
but he might not.
I think so. Maybe we'll save the PD argument for later, just so we have more time.
Not the best person, but he's a good.
Francisco Rodriguez has the 400 saves. K-Rod had a really bad decline, but I think if you're going to put in relievers,
put him in.
He's the second one on this ballot you got to put in, behind the guy coming up later. Sheffield, we've talked about him. We talked about Rollins, James Shields.
No, stop it.
Hey,
Fernando Tatis.
Yeah. Chase Utley, yes. Vizquel falls in a weird category for me. The whole character clause frustrates me. Because if you, and this is the argument I want to use against guys like Tom Verducci on the Network, if you're going to say, well, I'm not going to vote in a guy because he's kind of an a-hole. Okay. I understand that. Or if you want to vote in guys because, well, cheating, steroids are bad character and we're not going to vote those guys. Okay. Do you know that I think all the steroid guys combined, and they compromised baseball. There was one man that I think did more to compromise baseball than all those guys put together. His name was Cap Anson, one of the first baseball stars in the 1800s. I think you've heard this story before. I'm just going to rehash it.
Go ahead.
If someone new. And Cap Anson is the guy that instituted the Gentleman's Agreement that banned African Americans from playing baseball. He was the guy.
Okay.
But he's in the Hall of Fame. And I believe rightfully so, because he was a Hall of Fame player and one of the earliest stars that really helped put baseball on the map and make it a national game. But if you're going to sit there and claim character integrity clause to me and not actively campaign for him to be removed, and for Judge Kennesaw Mountain Landis, the first commissioner, he did a lot of good for baseball, but he did a lot of bad, like keeping black players out the entire season. I mean, he dies, and legitimately right after Branch Rickey brings in Robinson because he wouldn't allow them to be in. He would.
Yeah.
If you are not actively campaigning for those two guys to practically be stricken from every record book, and the Hall of Fame and all of that, then shut up. And you don't care about the integrity. You don't like that this guy gave you a bad interview one time, or that these guys cheated, and at the time you didn't say anything when they were cheating. The guy that found the bottle of steroids in Mark McGuire's locker in '98 was vilified. The writer was. He found a bottle of androstenedione in his locker. He was vilified for finding that, for finding steroids. The commissioner knew it. And he went, well, baseball is really good. Who cares? But we care now. McGuire, Sosa, put them in the Hall of Fame. They're Hall of Fame players. But you're not going to put them in because it's easier to say you want to love it when it's happening and then hate it when it's over. So that way you can look morally good.
I mean, I feel the same way about Barry Bonds, but
Bonds, Clemens, let them all in. It frustrates me that these guys are not getting let in the Hall of Fame. But
agreed.
Billy Wagner, yes, greatest left reliever of all time, and then David Wright.
Oh, this is so tough. You guys probably hate thinking about it.
I say no, and the reason I say no is he had all the talent in the world and was a great guy, good dude. But Jones had a really good peak and was probably the best center fielder in baseball at that time. I cannot think of someone that was better that immediately springs to mind. But when you look at Wright, he was really good, but he was almost maybe a few years in, was already getting injured. And I think that is where I am with David Wright. Is if you guys want to vote for him, I don't think he'll get in. I mean, looking at the numbers, he stopped playing full seasons in 2010. So he had 2006, 2010 was one of the best players in baseball. Then right afterwards, he had so many injuries, and then he started to get healthy again, and then after 2014,
I mean, for that reason right there, I think it should be. I mean,
and then 2000,
as good of a player, you can't. I don't know if you can put him in.
I mean,
in 2014, he's so close. I don't think his WAR is high enough. He doesn't have 2,000 hits. He doesn't have like 300 home runs. He's in the hall of. He's in the hall of. If he'd been allowed to play a full career, there is no doubt he's the first ballot Hall of Famer.
It's kind of wild. I think Mike Trout might be in a similar trajectory. A better player, obviously, but similar trajectory.
I think Trout will get in on reputation. And I think he played longer, better than Wright did. But
no, that's totally reasonable.
Anyway, to move to football, we won't recap every single game from last week, but we'll recap the main one that unless there's one that you really want to talk about.
No.
And that's Cowboys-Lions. Cowboys played well, tried to piss it away down the stretch. I mean, Mike McCarthy, what are you doing throwing the ball 3 times? Well, hey, we won, so I'm happy with that.
Hold on a minute, because I know you're smiling right now. But everybody, all these Lions fans or Cowboys haters saying that, refs won the Cowboys the game.
Okay.
They're not. They did not.
Okay.
A missed tripping call on Hutchinson, which would have made it, second in inches. First down ends the game. Lions don't even touch the ball after that. Then, yes, Decker did report. But they didn't announce that he reported.
That's on them, though.
Yeah, exactly. That's on the refs.
I'm not blaming the Lions for that. That's
I think.
But you don't think the Cowboys and Jordan? I think it was Jordan Lewis after the game who was talking about. Well, if they would have announced Decker eligible, we would have actually looked at him. You're not going to look at a left tackle and be like, "Oh, okay, let's guard him," even though he's not eligible.
If you watch this, and this is the argument I tried to have with it's easier to debate it with Seth. I tried to debate this with him, and of course, I realized there was no changing his mind, so I just kind of, I'm sure you're right. And then now I think more information. Look, the ref screwed up. It's one of the biggest screw ups I think ever.
Of course.
It's one of the worst looks for the NFL ever. There's no debate about
Agreed.
that. But I think there are multiple times where there are things I could point to that say, okay, this singular action did not lose you the game.
No. It never happens that way.
First off, they could have kicked the extra point.
I just have a strong take. Not to interrupt you, I just have a strong take that there's never one thing, and I'm saying as a Saints fan that lost on the worst no call in history, that one decision still
did not lose.
I know, trust me, I know. I'm saying there's never one action that loses a team a game outright.
The Dez no catch. It's 4th and run. It is 4th and 1. Run the ball with DeMarco Murray, 1,800 yards, that offensive line, and you pass a deep shot to Dez Bryant, and then the defense could have stopped them we had still like 4-something minutes left.
Yep.
The defense didn't do anything.
There's always other plays.
There's always other plays, and
especially with this Lions-Cowboy game, there's still 23 seconds and a timeout for the Cowboys. And down one.
Anyone that's played football can say, look, there's never one thing. The coach has always said, guys, we never want to hear you say we lost because of the refs, we lost because of this play or that play. We'll show you 20 more, we'll show you 15 more that if this guy done his job, it doesn't matter. So the no tripping call, the fact that it's the 2-point conversion from the 8-yard line, and you continue to go for it out of just stubbornness, and then you do it again. I mean, it's frustrating to think that you're blaming this one loss on this one play, and the refs made a huge mess, screw up. But I figured out who that they called 70 before it was announced, because I was watching my grandparents, and we ran it back to that play after the game, and I said, whoa, look at that. And Damone Clark was pointing at 70, skipper, and was saying something to Marquise Bell, and Bell was like nodding and gave him like a thumbs up. And watch Bell on that play. Bell stays at the line of scrimmage, practically, like on 70 almost. So he's not like right on him, but he's clearly like watching. He looks at him and realizes he's not moving. So he looks at and so then he looks at Goff to see what's happening, but he's keeping an eye. He didn't drop back. He stayed up where 70 was to follow him. So in my eyes, watching as I don't want to say an educated fan, Clark told Bell, you guard 70, I'm going to go I'm going to go to the left here, you take 70, and Bell said, I got him, because Bell never drops back in coverage. And, yes, it's a bad call, and I know it's I don't say it's almost victim blaming to say this, but it almost is to say, well, if the Cowboys had, we would have covered Decker.
Well, if you go back to the play was covered.
To that guy. And so I think if we would have covered Decker, I think we would have covered Decker. But now you're dealing on a what if, and I hate dealing on what ifs because maybe we just maybe he puts a move on him, maybe he mosses a corner. I mean, Taylor Decker's a big guy. I think he could moss Jordan Lewis. Maybe it's possible.
No, but he's not going to. He's an offensive lineman.
He's not going to, but he's tall. He has a shot. I'm just saying
there's a lot of things you can look at that game.
Yeah, I'm not blaming on that.
The refs made a bad decision, but. I still think Cowboys deserve to win that game.
At the end of the day, history is going to look back and see the Cowboys won.
Actually, I think we should have lost because of the McCarthy. I remember when they got the 2-point conversion, when they were lining it up, and when Decker, I was about to start punching stuff because I'm like, McCarthy lost this game. It is on nobody else but Mike McCarthy. Everybody else played really well. Defense played very, very well. And it's on McCarthy for that awful stretch of play calling towards the end.
Mm-hmm.
So it feels like our offense has gone back to what we were doing the first 5 weeks that sucked, and we haven't done what we did in the middle of the season, what was winning. Anyway, Steelers-Ravens, I don't know what the score is, but I assume we all said Steelers.
Steelers are winning this. Yeah, I had Steelers.
So we're going to have Jordan give his picks as well. So we all said
Steelers have 17-7 with 45 seconds left. It looks to be over.
Which is big for them because they had to win to
have a chance.
Just have a chance. They don't even control the destiny.
I don't know what happens.
They don't.
Texans, Colts. I'm taking Colts.
I had Texans. It's a toss-up, man. There's no right answer.
I'm going Colts. Pretty much it's the home team advantage. I'm going with. I just don't think the Texans are
ready. I think Stroud's going to show up. Listen, it's going to be a close game. I think the Colts can win the game.
This may sound like an idiot. I thought Stroud was hurt.
He's back.
He's back. I'm still going Colts. Okay. I'm stubborn. Cowboys, Commanders. I think we all know who we're all going.
Yep.
Hey, but look, I've been saying this, and Jordan knows. I know. Don't overreact.
No, I'm not.
But if you're not a Cowboys fan and you don't remember what happened last year versus Sam Howell, Week 18 in Washington,
You're right.
I actually have a good excuse because I don't remember much of that game. The reason why I don't remember much of that game, I fell asleep.
Yeah.
And anyone that knows me knows that Brady does not fall asleep during any football game, even if it's not even his own teams. I fell asleep during a Cowboys game because it was that boring.
Yeah.
It was that awful.
Bad lot, but Dak is playing, an MVP level. It wasn't last year. It's a different team.
I think the difference is that year, if we'd have won and the Eagles had won, we needed the Eagles to lose.
Yeah, it didn't matter.
So we had to win it, and the Eagles had to lose. They were trying to get the playoffs. Right now, it's more control.
We control our destiny. We win, we're in. We don't care what Philly does.
Cowboys should win this game.
Cowboys should win this game.
Bottom line.
Yeah.
Buccaneers at Panthers.
Bucks, but it sucks because I need the Panthers to win, but I have Bucks.
Give me the Buccaneers.
Browns at Bengals. It's two teams that don't care about this game.
I have Browns just because
I'm going to go Bengals.
I'm going Browns for the
flip a coin.
Browns because I want them.
I'm going Bengals because the Browns aren't playing anyone.
Flip a coin.
Vikings at Lions. I'm going Lions, and the reason I'm going Lions, I think they're so stubborn.
I already chose Lions.
I think I honestly think they may play some of their starters. Just
Lions.
Just to stick it to the NFL.
Vikings are also just not a good team right now. They don't have a quarterback.
Yeah.
They don't know how to execute their offense.
They're hurt.
They're
Lions.
There's just no one. There's no one to get the ball to. Like Jetta's is the only guy on their team that Hawk's out, right?
Yeah.
So Jetta's the only guy on their team, and they don't have a quarterback.
Jets at Patriots. I'm going Patriots. And the reason I'm going Patriots is this could be Bill Belichick's last game. And I think it is the most poetic justice for Bill Belichick to beat the Jets in his final game in New England.
I'm going with the Jets. Zappy's not ready for that.
I have Jets. I just think that they're playing better right now, but it's toss-up also.
Mine is mostly storyline.
Fine.
I think Bill is going to tell them, guys, I could be leaving. Please, let me kick the crap out of the Jets one more time before I leave New England because he's been notorious for that.
Yeah.
Obviously, set in motion after the infamous writing his resignation on a napkin. Falcons at Saints. I'm going Saints.
So I'm going Saints. We've been playing great football. The Falcons have not been playing great football. So I'm a Saints fan, just so that you guys don't know.
It's more of the Falcons are playing horrendous football, so I'm going to go with the Saints.
I don't trust Arthur Smith. I mean, he's committed football malfeasance.
No, I mean, he's the worst. I also, which by the way, someone asked me today if I'd be happy if he got fired or sad, and I had to think about that actually, because it's actually a conundrum for me. Do I want to see them fail for another year, or do I want to see them use their weapons properly in their offense? The football fan of me says, fire the hell out of him. The Saints fan of me says, please keep him.
Yeah.
So,
it's kind of like how I felt about Dan Snyder. Oh, man, like, it's a little thing. I want him out of one of the out of the league, but
of course.
As a Cowboys fan, I'm like, no, keep him. He's been keeping them bad. Yeah. I currently, I kind of enjoyed his ownership tenure. You know?
So
give me the Saints.
No, I'll just say I have the Saints winning this game. I want to clarify that it doesn't matter if we win outright.
If the Bucks win.
Well,
right?
Not just that. There's two scenarios. So for the division, Bucks have to lose to the Panthers. We have to win. If we win, that's the only way we get into the playoffs. The other scenario is that we have to win. The Bears have to beat the Packers, which we can talk about in a moment. I have the Bears winning that game, not just because I'm biased, but I genuinely believe they should win that game. And then the Cardinals have to beat the Seahawks, which both seem plausible. It's not impossible,
but
odds are we're not making it.
You're not banking on it.
To backtrack to the Steelers scenarios, it just got released what they need to do. So then the Jaguars
did they win?
They won
officially.
Yeah. So the Steelers need the Jaguars to lose to the Titans or tie. They need the Bills to lose to the Dolphins or the Colts and Texans game to end in a tie. One of those three things happens, they're in.
Jags at Titans. I am going Jags because I think the Jags I think they're going to get to the playoffs and I think they want to control their destiny. I trust Doug Peterson in the big moment. I trust Lawrence in the big moment. And with Christian Kirk back, I trust them more than... And I know if Mike Vrabel may have galvanized his team, and there's a chance, and I don't think he should be fired. I think he's a good coach, has had a bad roster, and needs an opportunity to get a good roster.
I have Jaguars. I think... I have Jaguars. I think the Jags are just a better team right now. The Titans are having some serious issues right now. I think they need to reset. I think they'll be better next year, but...
I'm going to go with the Jaguars. Christian Kirk is back. So it's a big, it's a big jump for them. Also
Jags are
the leader of the team.
Jags are playing for the playoffs too.
Yeah,
Jags win the division and playoffs.
If they win, they win the division. If they lose,
they could be out.
If they lose, whoever wins the Texans Colts game, I think gets the division, right?
Yeah.
Yes, but I think the Jags have a chance to drop out, especially now that the Steelers won.
Yeah, it's possible.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
Seahawks at Cardinals. I'm going Hawks. I think that they're fighting for their playoff lives, and I think that when we've seen that team when they fight, they are fighters.
I mean, they have an amazing
and
coach.
they can hang with the best teams in the NFL. They hung with us.
You're talking about an Arizona team, though, that just went into Philadelphia and won.
I think that
Both
was the
teams did.
coordinator. I think that was the coach more than the players. I think that was Gannon, and I think it was just we're gonna win one for the old.
But now you
coach
come
here.
back to Arizona home versus a division team. You know it's gonna be a good game. It's a division game.
What are you going with?
I'm going with Cards personally. Who are you going with?
Give me Arizona. They helped us out, so I'm helping them out.
I'm going with the Cards, not just because I'm biased and they have to win for us to have a chance, really, but I also just believe that this is the type of game where
Unless it's a game where they just have to lose for a better draft position, then
No, I really truly do believe this is a game that they could absolutely win at home. I think it's a very reasonable game.
Yeah, they could, but
I think Kyler's been playing a lot better the last few weeks, and personally, I think that their record is not indicative of how good of a team they've been because they haven't had Kyler for so long, and I think it's a good thing to look at. So
we know.
yeah.
Bears at Packers. Chase knows I have ridden with the Packers the entire year. I was not sold on Jordan Love. I've gotten sold on him. I think he's a franchise quarterback. I think their weapons are young. I think they're good. I think they're going to be even better after. I think this offseason, if I was them, I don't know what their cap situation looks like, but if they have it to spend.
Yeah.
Get playmakers, everyone on the ball. And I don't know the Jair Alexander if he's on the team and you can trade him or if he's a free agent. I'm not sure on that. But if you could trade him for another first-round pick, imagine that team with 2 first-round picks.
Yeah.
I'm going Packers.
And I agree with everything you just said. And after all that, give me the Bears.
I agree with everything as well, and the Packers do have a very promising future. Obviously, one reason I went for the Bears is because of the Saints situation. I'm going to pick them. But I will say I think the Bears have something to prove. They haven't won against Green Bay in a while, and there's been a whole conversation about they need to be able to beat Green Bay to be who they are as a team, and there's a whole thing about that.
This is a Fields future game.
This is a huge test for Fields.
It is.
I think he passes. If he doesn't, I would not be surprised.
So with the Bears, I want to pivot to this for a second. The Bears have probably the greatest situation any team has ever been in the history of the NFL.
Yeah.
I mean, you have back-to-back years of first overall picks with a quarterback that I think can win.
I agree.
I think he just needs a good team around him.
I agree.
I think he's one of those guys. I mean, the Niners won with Colin Kaepernick, who I think was a good quarterback, but not a great one, and in his better years, that could win when you had Anquan Bolden and those guys around him, and Vernon Davis, and a great offensive line, of great defense, and a great coach, and Jim Harbaugh. He's, of course, the big name right now. I think that, Fields is a winner, and I think he can win, and I think your situation is trade back. Get more picks, get more playmakers, and this team could be. And I like Matt Eberflus. I think he was a great coach with the Cowboys.
He's definitely going to stay.
He's
for sure.
actually solid. I like him a lot.
He was a great defensive. He was our linebackers coach. And Sean Lee was here. For people that don't know, goes to the Colts, becomes a great defensive coordinator, and goes to the Bears. And I think that he's
you got to give him time with the situation that you put him in.
Yeah,
and I think he's living up to the expectations. Bears look really good.
I think they're going to get Marvin Harrison next year is my prediction. I think they'll go for him.
It'd be nasty.
I mean, they might trade down to 2, but either way.
Chiefs at Chargers. Look, I think the Chargers are so bad. I'm going
the Chiefs every time.
I'm going to
Mahomes is going to play a quarter, but is that quarter enough to win you the game?
Yes.
If you score 3 points, that might also be all you need.
The Raiders proved that to you, that one quarter could be.
I'm not taking the Chargers until they prove me wrong, and they're not going to today.
Chiefs.
Not going to
Okay,
tomorrow.
I already marked you down, so I hope so. I assume. Hold on, drop my pen there. Broncos at Raiders. I think the Raiders want Pierce, and I think they know the one way to get Antonio Pierce the head coaching job is to continue to win games. I think at home they want to win to try to keep Pierce as their head coach, and the Broncos suck. So give me the Raiders. Raiders.
I'm picking Broncos only because I believe that. I know this is a little biased
Peyton.
also, but I think Sean Payton might outcoach him a little bit. That's all.
Oh, it's possible. Eagles at Giants. I originally said Eagles, and
I'm with you. I'm going Giants.
And I'm going Giants. And the reason I'm going Giants is it's hard to beat a team twice in this close. You are limping into the playoffs. After losing to the Cardinals, you lost to the Cowboys.
It's fair.
You lost to the team. They lost to the Seahawks. You have gotten your butt kicked. And I think that it's just a team, and I think the Giants want to prove going into next year that they have a chance to be good again. They had expectations this year. We did a good job of killing those expectations week 1, 40-0.
Yeah.
And I think that we just killed their confidence. They couldn't get it back. I think that a win over the Eagles could be a huge confidence boost. I think Dable wants to prove why he should stay. I think it'd be like hey, look, free agents may want to come here because we can win.
Yeah, Giants are healthy now. I'm going Giants too. Mark me down for that. Giants are healthy now.
We're probably wrong. I mean,
Yeah,
the
but
Eagles
I was
may
gonna
come
say-
out.
I'm picking the Eagles just because I think they're better, but it's not. It's not because I agree with everything you guys have said. It's totally fair. It's
I'm
totally
with you.
fair.
There's no question the Eagles are a better team, but it's been the same narrative every week. Oh, the Eagles need to win this game to get their confidence back. Oh, but they lose. Okay, now the Eagles need to win to get their confidence back. Well, when are they going to win to get their confidence back?
The same dilemma you talked about. I don't want Sirianni fired. I want him to stay there for 20
That's
years.
fair.
And the reason is not just because I don't think he's a very good coach. I mean, he went to the Super Bowl, but the reason is not just.
I said he was a mid coach.
fair.
He embodies Philadelphia.
He does.
He has the most punchable
Yeah.
face
so true.
in the history of sports.
And people said Sean Payton's was. I think this is worse.
And I think that Sirianni as your head coach is great. I think it's great for Philadelphia because I think that their problems this year really haven't been him. I think it's the fact that when you get both your coordinators poached,
oh my God, it's so obvious.
It's bound to happen, and then you have Matt God-awful Patricia as your as your calling plays.
Yeah.
The fact that he's still in the league is incredible.
No wonder, especially after the allegations against him.
And their offense has been putrid because they can't call plays properly.
And
So
so-
talk about both sides of the ball are having serious issues.
And guess who's up for Coach of the Year? Now, okay, this is just
I know,
don't know,
Steichen,
I don't know why my brain is lapsing.
Steichen.
Yeah, it's only I don't know why. It's one Coach of the year. It's not
Yes,
AFC,
it's
NFC.
one.
I'm making sure. I don't know why my brain was transferred
No
there, but
worries.
he's a Coach of the Year
Yeah, he's
candidate.
top
He's
three
done a
right now.
great
Top
job
two,
with
actually, I think.
Indianapolis. And
I think personally,
If he wins
I think personally it's
tomorrow-
going to be Kevin Stefanski.
If he wins tomorrow, I think he gets it. I think if he loses tomorrow, I think it might go to Stefanski.
I mean, so that's
Second place tonight.
Oh,
So-
you're right. It is tonight. My
yeah.
bad. Yeah,
So I
you're
mean,
right.
I don't blame. And then Gannon's done a decent job with the Cardinals, so I don't blame Sirianni. I blame the fact that you got two inept coordinators and need to rebuild the coordinators tree again. But I want him as the head coach because it makes it easier to hate Philadelphia. Peterson was a nice guy that was hard to hate.
I agree.
Until he said those things like we want Dallas or whatever. Remember, he went on a radio show and talked some smack.
Yeah, I mean, Sirianni,
And then-
that's
and
not
then-
what you do as a head coach. You don't walk out of the locker room and be like, "Screw the Chiefs" or whatever. Like, no head coach
we
does.
did that for Frank Reich.
Yeah, nobody does
Frank
that
Reich
as a
doesn't even
coach.
remember who you are. Rams at Niners.
Rams. They're
No,
playing the best football.
Niners are
They're
resting.
playing the best football.
Aren't Rams
Niners
too?
are
Rams
resting.
are locked, right?
Right, yeah, but they actually have something to play for in seeding because it's.
But
do you
Stafford's
want,
not playing.
It's do you want to go to play Dallas as the 7, or do you want to? Yes, the 7, or do you
You
want?
sure?
Yes, or
Yes.
or
No,
do you-
it
or,
affects seeding, but Stafford's not playing.
or do you want to go face Detroit as the 6?
It's either one.
So it's
they'll still be playing.
they'll be playing. I mean, they're gonna say it's because they get a higher seed because everyone says that, but I think that you'd rather probably who'd you rather face Dallas at home or Detroit at home? Both are tough.
I think I think
Probably Dallas.
So I think currently Dallas. I think if Dallas has a great week this week, like blowout week, I think it changes. I seriously do. I think it's a toss up.
What are you
I'm
thinking?
going with the Rams, but
Rams?
I mean, whatever.
I have
Go with
Rams
what
on
you
this
want.
game.
I mean, I could use a disagreement and then
Yeah.
I'll get a little
No,
game
I know.
here.
I'm going Rams.
Bills at Dolphins. I think
Toss up here.
I think Josh Allen, and this is for the division.
Bills.
They're both tied. And look, I think the Dolphins. I think both teams are kind of frauds. But I think the Bills are going to charge into Miami and take names and kick butt. And I think it's going to be the Bills.
I'll tell you
Bills.
I'll tell you the one difference in their teams right now. Both very explosive offenses.
Defense.
But the one thing right now is that the Bills' defense is coming to play.
I like Vic Fangio. I think he's a great coordinator. I think he works so much. I think he's more like Dan Quinn, where the head coach may not be his position. He's just so great as a coordinator. By the way, if we do fire McCarthy, I actually do want Dan Quinn, but that's just beside the point. Yes, I'm a hypocrite. I don't care.
Give me Bills.
I
Give me
have
Bills.
I have Bills, and I'll tell you why. For me, I think Josh Allen is still talented. I think the narratives against him at the end of the year were one of those like whiplash type things where people went too far. I don't think he's as good as people said he would be the last few years. He's not Mr. January as Romo likes to say, but
Seth loves that, Mr. January.
but what I will say is I think he's better than Tua, and I do think that right now he's playing better football than Tua. And I don't care if Stephon Diggs gets 0 catches. I still think they're a better team currently than the Dolphins are. It is very close, and I could very easily see the Dolphins winning this game, but I'm going to take the Bills.
Yeah, and when with this week 18, it's last week of the season, and we're not counting playoffs as part of our game, which kills me. But
Hey, we made this before the season started.
I know. But it's been a weird year, I think, and I think the reason it's been a weird year, and I think it plays into why Micah hasn't gotten any calls, is defenses have caught up to the offenses. Over the last 15 years, offenses have surged ahead, and defenses were struggling to catch up. And you get, every year you have one or two defense. You'd have those defenses like the no-fly zone Broncos and Legion of Boom Seahawks. But very rarely did you get those suffocating defenses. Very rarely did you get those. And I think that it's because defenses were struggling to catch up. And Dan Quinn's one of the few guys that's actually been able to still have a great defense regardless of and so he was one of the first guys to catch up. I feel like around the league, almost every team has caught up.
Yes.
In not just strategy, but in player personnel. We have and has been doing the draft the last few years. There's always been an abundance of edge rushers.
I had the same conversation the other day. I'm laughing because this is word for word what I was talking about.
The pass rushers in each draft has grown, and just like I remember, a guy from this last year was Yaya Diaby.
Mm-hmm.
He's up for there's consideration for defensive rookie of the year, I believe, because he's had a great year. I don't even remember where he went. I think it's Arizona. I want to say I could be wrong about that. I probably am wrong. I'm probably thinking of Louisville. I think that's where he went. But he's been a guy that's been really good. And he was a guy that I thought was a day 3 guy. There have been day 3 guys that have just exploded onto the scene, and I think that is the problem is that there's so many good edge rushers, and the offensive line depth is at its all-time worst. Or
people don't want to be offensive linemen. That's I think the core.
Hey,
no.
Now
I have the most respect for them in the world, but people don't want to be offensive linemen.
I did. I actually wanted to be a lineman.
No.
I wanted to be. I like the protector role versus the aggressor role. It's just me. But
that's fair.
Well, also the coach said, get over there. So there wasn't much arguing. But I like my story better. So I think that just edge rushers have caught up, and I think there's more talent. I mean, Sam Williams, I think, can beat most tackles in the NFL.
And pay is big, too.
And he is a backup. He's a rotational guy. Dorrance Armstrong how many times have he beaten guys? And I'm like, man, those are good linemen.
Mm-hmm.
And he's a good line, but it's just, I think that the offensive line, and so one of the ways the league has tried to combat this is, hey, don't call holding penalties as frequently.
Uh-huh.
And I think that you're seeing that. That's why people are getting frustrated. And I understand that as an offensive lineman perspective, I kind of like it to a kind of morbid degree because it's like, well, we need every rule in regarding that has, people say it's going against offenses. Holding is being there's no consistency. People don't know what holding is anymore. I agree. We learned holding is in between, and this is the term we use. So it was in between the tit and the pit. Right here, that little patch right there is where you're supposed to grab. And so when guys do that and they get called, it ticks me off because I'm like, that's what we're taught. I was played a year in high school. We were taught to do that. So these guys have probably been learning that since they were in junior high. And you're now
changing the rules on them at the highest level of play.
Now when they grab the shoulder, the back, that's a penalty all day, every day. But when they do this and there's just a little bit of pull, this really isn't even holding. But I know people can't see what I'm doing. You guys can.
Of course.
Hopefully you guys can imagine what I'm doing. But it frustrates me. And so on one level, I'm happy they haven't been calling it as much because it gives some power back to the offensive lineman. But there have been some ones where if you're putting a guy in a headlock, that's the one that some of the ones on Micah are where he's like it's one of those he's the hands in the frame and he's pulling on the opposite side, so it looks like it's holding. I want to let those go. It's the headlocks and the pulling at the mask and pulling. Yeah. The one that I always frustrates me as a lineman is when they pull at the collarbone, at the U part of your neck. That's holding. If I have you right there, you can't do anything. I control where you go. There's nothing you can do because I can control you where your head is.
Yep.
And that's a problem. And so they're not even calling those anymore as frequently. So it's frustrating me, and I think it's frustrating a lot of fans. And I think refs, they have to fix it.
A lot of Cowboy fans because we see Micah.
And I think the XFL did it the best. And by the way, XFL, USFL merged. The UFL, it's so much better because when you have two leagues that are not great already, bless you, competing, it just makes it waters down more. Now you have one league. And I think they could expand a little bit more, but we'll see what they do.
Yeah.
I like it better. But I like what they did. They had Dean Blandino in the booth calling things from a booth. Everything was reviewed within 5 seconds. I think if you told NFL fans, games will take 10 or 15 minutes longer on average, but we can guarantee you better reffing. Every fan, I seriously believe this 100%. Every fan that loves football would say, unless you just have an IQ below 100, would say yes.
Alabama fans.
The attitudes of our guests do not always reflect the attitude of KNTU in the show. Anyway, so that's where I'm at, is that it just is frustrating. I think you just need better reffing. Yeah. We've seen it. It's the worst year of reffing I think ever.
No, replacement refs are worse, but it's close.
Arguably, I think these are almost worse.
I heard someone say that recently. Their replacement refs be better than these guys.
I think what makes this one worse is these guys are the pros.
Yeah, I know.
And so the replacements would, we understand that.
You
anyway,
expect it, right? Yeah, of course.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for listening. Bit of a longer episode.
Hey, first one back in a month.
First one.
Gotta get caught up.
Jordan in with us, and thank you for being on with us today. It's been a great pleasure having you on. And again, I think I talked about this last week. I cannot remember if I did. Me and Seth, who has been on the show a couple times, is on the draft show. We are in talks to start a wrestling podcast. The name, possibly because I am not very original, could be In Between the Ropes. This one is In Between the Stitches, and he actually liked it. I think it's funny to say it's kind of like almost like a sister show in a way. But hopefully, and then I'm talking with some people here to kind of see if we can get that going. That won't be related to this. It sounds like it'd maybe just be me and Seth doing that. But Chase isn't going anywhere. George is welcome to come on anytime when he's down here, and I'm excited. It's almost draft season this week. After week 18 is when I start doing my film stuff. At least it's just kind of some of the the preliminaries, seeing names, getting them in my head. Okay, who's rising, who's falling already, and then once Super Bowl's over, I'm on it. As much as I can. Top 300 players is what I do. So. Anyway, thank you guys for listening, and we will see you guys next Wednesday instead of the Saturday episode. It was just because we're on break, and I believe, Chase, you're good for Wednesday?
I should be.
Okay.
I should be.
We'll see you guys next week.
See you guys.